So I had the fender bolted on to the core support and did some measurements, and I think I'm going to push it back as far as I can, which is about 4.5 inches back, to get my center wheelbase lined up. I think that would be better than 4 inches. So I've got the top support cut through already, and I'm going to weld this to both supports. That way I have my spacing set. I just need to line that up and get my height correct, and it's going to make it a lot easier to weld it back on where I need it. Got it tacked up. Now it's time to finish cutting the rest of the support off. Supports are cut off. I took the liberty of marking everything up where I want it on the frame rail, so I can line this support up, and also I'll just need to center it. This is really close to center. Oh, bless you. And so I'll go ahead and line it up and shim it here, and maybe even give it a little tack once I shim it to get the right height and see if things fit. This needs to come back, you see. So I based it off that front edge. So, all right, we'll see if we can get it tacked up. All right, front clip is partially on. It's not bolted together and not lined up, but you can kind of tell where it's going to be at. This fender is flared out due to the master cylinder. I can't really push it in, and I thought that was supposed to line up. If you can see, there's, where are my fingers? Master cylinder. Oh, master cylinder hole. Sorry, that's the steering column. That's where your brake master cylinder goes through the firewall. And there's my master cylinder right here. So I think it will clear this inner fender. I measured it out and it seemed like it was going to work, but it's hard to say at this point. But as far as, I have a little bit of adjustment, but I mean, it matches the, you see my mark. That's kind of where I wanted to actually put it a little bit further forward than I was going to, which I think I'm glad I did, because it fits the fender well opening a lot better. And I like the height. It's about 9 or 7 inches taller than where the truck sits now currently. So part one was the front clip adjustment, and I think part two is going to be motor and transmission. So this is how close I am to the front of the harmonic balancer, and that's where my radiator sits. So I'm going to need to move it back, and a few things that are holding me up is this tube, which is my turbo tube going to my intercooler. I only have a certain amount of space between that, and then also on this side, my power steering, which is hard to see, but the power steering line is close to the motor mount, the existing motor mount. Currently the engine is sitting back at 5 degrees. So when I go to make a new motor mount, these Dodges actually come with a lot of different mounting points, which is kind of nice. I guess just that one, this one. These two are probably going to be in my way, and then there's two up there. So I'll have to include that 5 degree angle. It probably won't amount to much, but however far I push it back, I need to adjust for that. I'm going to leave the transmission mount on the transmission and slide it back. I might have to do some figuring because there's like a little raised portion on the lower side where this thing sits on. And also I'm going to take out the drive shaft carrier bearing and just put a solid single drive shaft in there, since I'm going to shorten it 8 inches in the back and moving this back 2.5 or so. Pulled the engine up just to clear enough, just enough clearance to get the motor mounts out, and they are gone. It's hard to see. Transmission pulls straight up off of this mount. I think it's supposed to be bolted in. There's some bolts there. I don't know if it's stripped out or not. Any Dodge guys out there might let me know, or else I'm going to find out later. But so that's an issue. So the transmission wasn't really even mounted to anything, just sitting there. Here's my motor mounts. I was hoping to use rubber out of them and build a new mount, but I don't know if those will press out or not, so I'll have to figure that out too. So I'm going to move the motor and transmission back 2.5 inches, and I've decided just to keep the body mounts where they are because my firewall matches the exact location on the other one, and the steering column is actually 1 inch longer than the other one from the firewall, so I don't want to push it back 2.5 inches. So I think I'm going to go ahead and section to here, over and up the firewall, and slide this whole thing back 2.5 inches to match the transmission shift, and then weld it all back in once I start putting that body on. Well, I wasn't planning on going this far, but I did. Wanted to clean up the motor and left the wiring harness pretty much attached to it just because I didn't want to have to feed all the wires back through this thing. But I'm going to power wash it, throw it on a trailer and take it over there. And I can clean this off easier, but I was talking with my father this weekend and we decided to just move the motor mounts instead of making custom motor mounts. Since the brackets already fit, I can just move these 2.5 inches. Might have to make do with something here. I guess not, I can just trim it and slide her back, so it should work all right. Might be a pain cutting it off though. Time to clean. Got it all cleaned up. Held the drive shaft on with 2x4 screwed to the deck. I didn't want to take it out because it would leak out the transmission fluid. It's clean for the most part. Boy, am I dirty. I'm back to the grind. So today I'm going to try to cut these motor mounts loose and slide them 2.5 inches back. I took the cross member out. You can see that the frame is tapered in, and I'm going to cut this out first, I guess, so I can bolt it from the back side to this plate. But weld it on there first and then drill my holes and then put it back on right where it sits. So I'm going to have to drill new holes here 2.5 inches back, but I'm going to weld a piece of plate here and then gusset it. Blew some holes in the frame for where my bolts are going to go. I need to weld a plate over it still. There. These motor mounts took way longer to take off than I was expecting, which I expected them to take a while, but as you can see, I blew through the frame a couple spots where I had to use a plasma cutter to cut the weld, and there's no way to control it. as well as a die grinder. But that's what I had to do to get them off. So weld them back up, grind them, and then move them back. Start cutting some plate on the plasma cutter. Put a 3/4 inch bend using the vise. It's too heavy of a gauge for the brake. So it'll slap up there like so. I just need to fit it, get it flush, and then box in this end. We should be good. Got the other side already bent up too. Got both extensions tacked in and fitted. Fitment's pretty good. It'll work. Both sides. So I'll just finish welding it up, and then I'll probably do this later because I'm trying to get these motor mounts in so I can get the motor off the trailer and kind of stuffed between the frame rails tonight, so I can maneuver this around and kind of clean up the shop a bit. The cross member is finally pushed back 2.5 inches. Cat approves. If it holds a cat, it'll hold a motor. But I just drilled 2 holes on each side of these, and I'll go ahead and drill these while I have it. I'll bolt it together and then drill them. So now on to the motor mount. Took the motor mount off and was going to see about bolting it on to the transmission. I don't know if you remember when I took it off, it had threads, and this is the bolt I took out. It had threads going up to the transmission, and there are holes with threads in them on the transmission, but you can see they don't thread in. They almost feel like they're too small, like they have been replaced the motor mounts and didn't put the right bolts. Well, and looking on the bottom side, you can see how they're have a little bit of threads left, but they're for the most part stripped. But there is enough room back in front of it, this is just grease, where I can drill a new hole, thread it, maybe even put a nut on this side so it holds better. I don't have a metric tap though, so I might just use a standard bolt and tap with a nut. Probably do that. So it's gonna sit here for the night. I'm gonna tarp it, and we'll have to figure something out there. So close. So yesterday I got the cross member moved and the motor mounts off. You could see on the cross member where the transmission sits, there's a slot here that gives you quite a bit of play, and that's why I think I can move my motor mount or the transmission mount ahead and just bolt it on instead of thread it in. I think it'd be more secure, but it's probably 2.5 inches or so of play. But I'm needing to, yeah, 2.5 or so. But I want to get these motor mounts, the bushings taken out. I don't have a press. I know a guy, but I haven't asked him yet. He wouldn't be around this week. But I did get the new bushings in, and these are just a solid rubber bushing. These are kind of, they've got space meant to absorb some vibration, but I think I'm just gonna these supposedly give you better performance, but I'll probably have to do something with the engine vibrations later on with a harmonic balancer of some sort. But those will fit in there. We just got to drive these out somehow. So let's see if I can do it here first. But I'll need to use a press for the motor mounts, so I'm kind of postponing that for now. Went ahead and got the motor positioned above the frame again, just to get it off the trailer, so I can put the Datsun back in here and without the trailer in here. I'll need to get those motor mounts done, and I'm gonna go ahead and bolt them on and attach the frame mounts to the engine mounts, set it down, get my new holes drilled, get the new transmission mount too while I'm at it, and we'll set it down in there, tack it, pull back up, and do a full weld after I get it kind of oriented where I want it. So stay tuned. Bought a shiny new transmission mount yesterday and picked up some new bolts, grade 8, to put in the new holes. I went ahead and marked it and center punched it. I'll get ready to drill a 1/4 inch hole first, and then go ahead and drill the 7/16 and put this new mount on it, ready for whenever I get the bushings pressed out of the motor mounts. So, transmission mounts officially on. It's a little closer to the front than I was hoping for. It's actually touching, but it shouldn't cause me any issues since this is steel and it's all bolted solid on top. It's just going to move on the bottom. We've got plenty of clearance down there, so it'll be fine. That'll give me more room to slide it back further than 2.5 inches when I get to the motor mounts. But just staying consistent on it. Hopefully get it done someday. So we got some helpers today. It's just a huge help. Put this motor in. But we got an issue. You can't see it, but the compressor is hitting the frame, and so I'm gonna have to notch that frame out just to get room for it for now, and then start boxing it back in and probably fill it in on the other side. I'll show you better when I get the motor back up. But Chris, what do you think of it so far?
I think it's easier to buy a new truck.
He really likes my rigging set up here.
Notice the safety nail. Got the safety nail in there. Holding literally all the weight of that, pulling on that.
Yeah. Finally got the frame notched out, and this is what I was talking about. I just went ahead and notched it way further back than what I needed to, because I was wanting to see how far I can actually push the thing back anyway. But it had some slots up here that I just kind of matched. Went ahead and matched, and I matched this side of the frame so I can follow this all the way back and have enough room for this compressor. It's looking good. I'll probably just leave it for now and box it in later once I get the motor where I want it, just to see. So thanks for the help, Chris, or not help. Pretty easy, press right out.